everyone, and welcome to another episode of Heart Warriors. Heart Warriors is a series I've been guided and inspired to do thanks to my energetic connection with Kata. And I'm sure you all know by now, Kata is our beautiful, sacred, masculine site in Central Australia, very close to Uluru, our sacred feminine site. So what I'm here to do is to give a platform to men so they can share their journey into the heart. When I kicked off this journey 11 months ago, I said I would do 100 shows, and today we are at number 99. So yeah, well on the way with one more to go after this. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. Today, I'm really excited to have on here a man from the UK, and his name is Dave Emery. Now, Dave is a historian, he's a teacher, he's an author, and he teaches at NewEarth University. His writings focus on spirituality, consciousness, metaphysics. He's also an ex-national and international tennis pro. He taught history and English throughout his career, and he's written a number of books ranging from children's stories to historical novels. And in fact, his latest work that he is writing now is called Beyond Biblical, and it is talking about the history that we were never told. So we'll hear all about that later on in the show, but really excited to find out about Dave's journey. Now, he was born just after World War II, so he would have seen quite a few changes in men and masculinity. So I'm really excited to explore that. And also, of course, a subject I've been wanting to get into for 99 episodes, which is the metaphysics of the heart. So really excited to be chatting to Dave. So enjoy. Hello, Dave Emery. Welcome to Heart Warriors. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about. And I'm thrilled to be with all your members, wherever they may be, particularly in Australia. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, well, absolutely. My pleasure. So let's start with getting to know a little bit about you. I like to ask the men, who's the man inside? When you drop all your labels of author, historian, teacher, how would you describe the man you are inside?
I'd say that I'm very inquisitive about specific things. I think I've told people before that when I was younger, I was really only interested in three things: history, mystery, and tennis. So I've always been interested in knowing where I come from, why I'm here. Don't ask me why. Even when I was 7 or 8, I was asking little questions like that. With regard to mystery, I used to walk around in the woods behind my parents' house, and I'd be fascinated by the magical qualities of the forest and of Earth generally. And I used to totally believe in magic and mystery. I've never had a problem with that. And then when I became involved with tennis, I realized, now that taught me that I had to engage with the 3D physical world, and I had to engage with other people. And otherwise I couldn't succeed at my tennis. So I had those three strands of interest: mystery, history, and the 3D application of social integration through tennis. So basically, you asked who I am underneath. Well, I'm none of those things, but all of those energies flow through me and always have. The desire to know where I come from, the desire to be a part of the magic and the mystery of life, and the desire to create and achieve in the physical world.
I love it. Thank you for that. Now, you did mention that you were born just after the end of World War II. So I'm interested then, growing up then, what was your major childhood challenge?
Other boys. It was in Northern Ireland. It wasn't easy in the just after the war and the initial years of the 50s, simply because in social terms and geoeconomic terms, the country was not in a great shape. And as a result of that, often the integration with other children did have its own problems, but that's nothing unusual. I mean, that sort of thing happens everywhere and has done throughout history, where you had to fight your corner. You had to stand your ground, otherwise you wouldn't be able to. So in the initial stages, when I was very young, yeah, there was lots of challenges of that sort, you know, social nature, etc., etc. But curiously enough, the most scary thing I ever had when I was very young, I think I was 4. I used to walk to school. We didn't have buses. Well, there were buses, but we didn't use them. I used to walk to school at 4, to Central School, 4 and 5. I used to walk, and there was never any problem about walking around, you know, even for children at that time. My grandma, I was living with my grandmother because my parents were in England preparing for us to go over there. And I was living with my grandmother, who was a sweet lady, but very, very strict, extraordinarily strict. You had to follow the rules, which of course was normal, because if you followed rules in those days with a large family, then you were secure. But if you didn't follow the rules, you were in big trouble. So she gave me a yellow dinner ticket. I've never forgotten this. You know, this is, oh my goodness, this is 70 years ago. She gave me a yellow dinner ticket on the Monday and said, "Now, David, this is your ticket for dinner, and it lasts for the whole week. I don't want you to lose it. All right?" Okay. So I put this in my top pocket with my little jumper, or whatever it was, and I walked to school. But I got into a bit of a fracas with some boys, just normal stuff, you know, and I got pushed over, and I didn't realize it, but the ticket fell out. So I went to school, and when I was asked for the ticket, I didn't have it. So the point I'm trying to make here about how scary all life was, it wasn't really scary, except when I went home that evening after school. And my grandmother said, this is what grandmothers and mothers say. You see, they say things like, "How did you get on at school?" "Yeah, it was all right." "What did you have for dinner?" But of course I hadn't eaten. So I said, "I made something up. I just imagined it." And I told her. And then she proceeded to ask me all these detailed questions about what it was like and what color was it and who gave it to you and all that. And I couldn't answer, and I eventually cracked up, and I'd had to tell her that I had lost the ticket. And oh my goodness, that was the most scary thing of all. The whole of Northern Ireland could have been the scariest place in the universe. But when my grandmother spoke to me like she spoke to me there, with her face as it was like thunder, I really felt that, you know, I was in terrible, terrible trouble. I've always remembered that. So ever since then, Gemma, I've made a point of never losing my dinner ticket.
Oh, I love that story. Thanks, Dave. What do you think is like? It was pretty harsh growing up back then, right? What do you think? Do you think that harshness helped shape you into, you know, to be a better man, or do you think the way that children are brought up these days is better?
I think you have to have a measure of being able to stand on your own 2 feet. I think it's very, very important that you can't have, this is just my view, you can't have parents who do too much for their children. They have to get out, they have to step out into the universe and examine their own strengths and find out their own parameters, their own boundaries, etc., the things they like and dislike, and also create their own values. If you're constantly being given values by other people for years and years and years, then those values may not truly be your own. So I think that, you know, in those early years for me, yeah, I relied very much on my loving family. They were great, and I really appreciate it. I shall forever do that. But at the same time, you have to be allowed to go out into the universe yourself and express yourself, create what it is within you. Education comes from the Latin educare, meaning to draw out. So education really draws out of you what is already in there. And that's a very interesting, magical and mystical philosophy, how we have everything within us, but we have to draw it out. And in the end, that relies upon us, not upon other people. That's where governments go wrong. They presume that in fact they are responsible for everything to do with us. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. Do you see, especially with boys, like, what were how were boys brought up back then as different to, you see boys being brought up now?
Well, of course, this is what we're talking about, old-fashioned ways of dealing with things. But in those days, the old-fashioned ways of of bringing up boys, it still has echoes even today. I mean, for example, I remember my uncle. It wasn't my true uncle. He was one of these. He was married into the family. He was a sea captain, a very, very powerful personality, and in fact the whole family was slightly afraid of him because he was so successful and he was so powerful. He was a captain in the Navy, and he was used to organizing people and telling them what to do. So I remember I was 19 and I went back over to Ireland to have a family reunion. I didn't want to do that. I was quite happy in England, but I did. And we all had a great family get together. Everybody was there. And of course, the sea captain, my uncle, was there as well. And he immediately said to me, "Well, David, what is it you're going to do with your life?" And I said to him, because this is what I felt, this is what I wanted to do, "I'm going to be a tennis player." And he proceeded to dominate the conversation with things like, "You stupid fool." He actually said that. "You can't get any money out of tennis." Well, he was right, because in 1967, there was no money in tennis. "You've got to get yourself a good job. You've got to work for 45 years. You've got to make sure that you get a good pension. You get a good home for your wife and your children." And I said, "I'm not married." He said, "Well, one day you might be." And so he gave me the chapter and verse on what you needed to do, which is what my father did, what his father did, what everybody did. The men in those days would get a job, be there for 45 years, get a pension, and at the end, when they retired, they'd get a little carriage clock with an engraving on the back. And that's what a man did. And a woman looked after the home and brought up the children and did the cooking. Now, there are still similarities to that even now, of course. But in those days, especially in Northern Ireland, it was very, very, very prevalent. And your standing in society as a man depended on the success you had in those areas. Money, job, attitude in the local community, and all these sorts of things. Those were who you were.
Yeah, fascinating. And, the polarity, the extreme polarity teachings now are trying to bring that back in, saying that the woman is more, there to be, like in the home, raising the children, and that system with the man out working and the woman at home actually functioned better than this, the typical system now where both go out to work and both are trying to juggle the children. What's your opinion of that?
Well, that is a geopolitical deliberate arrangement by those who want to control society according to certain of their own parameters. They want both adults in the family to be working, and because that exposes the children, if there are any children, to the control of the state. It might sound, totally ridiculous, but that is what was designed. And of course, the energy that is run, that the 3D world is run on, the geosocial world, the energy that's run on, it's run on mostly is, of course, money. So the more people who are making money, the more that the organizers can charge taxes and licenses and registrations, etc. And they can separate out the family, because the family is a unit which really is too powerful. So you reduce the power of the family by making both parents go out and be away from the children. So the children spend more time on their own or with schools, etc., with other people who are operating according to a separate agenda. That's crept in and is expanding and is part of the geosocial experiment. So you're right, in the past, the structured way of the husband going to work and the mother staying with the family and looking after the children, yes, that had many, many advantages. The point I tried to make earlier is that that structure, although it had a lot of positive impact on society generally, that structure tended to separate the energies of the man and the woman, so that they adopted a different persona to what really, I believe, they should have. And so now I'm going to have to explain that, aren't I?
Yes.
Okay. Now here's where you've got to go down a rabbit hole. Are you ready for this?
Yes, please.
Okay. A lot of people can't really handle this because it steps into the era, the realm of mystery, magic, sacred science, and quote unquote religion. But let's go there anyway. You see, the whole of the cosmos, as well as you and I, we have various types of energies. We have masculine and feminine energies. And that is true in the cosmos. In fact, we call it the Divine Father and the Divine Mother, and they operate together as one. In fact, the structure of our etheric bodies is known as the Christ code. And the structure of the feminine bodies is known as the Kristalla code. Christ, we get the word Christ from. Kristalla, we get the word Allah from. So this is a sacred connection. So you have the Divine Father and the Divine Mother as part of the whole cosmological energetic connection. And what do we have with the man, the masculine? Well, the masculine energies are electric, and they are light, and they are oscillation. So every man is operating energetically through oscillation of light, electricity. We are electrotonal. So what about the woman? Well, the woman operates energetically according to sound, magnetism, and she vibrates. So if you want to get a connection, say, for example, a twin flame connection, or some people call it soul flame, soulmate and so on. If you want those to work together, you have to align the electric with the magnetic, the light with the sound, the oscillation with the vibration. And when you get them to be aligned internally together as one, you have a power which is so powerful that it becomes the Divine Father and the Divine Mother, which becomes cosmologically energetic. And that is, believe it or not, that's one of that is probably the primal reason why geopolitical organizations, governments, for example, and elites do not want the woman and the man to truly energetically connect. They want to separate them. That's why they introduce the sexual porn and all those sort of things, because that fractures the connection. And also take away the children, that fractures the connection. Make them both go out to work, that fractures the connection. Have you ever seen the film The Adjustment Bureau with the actor Matt Damon? Well, The Adjustment Bureau is about a man who's very powerful, who's likely to become the president. but he falls in love with a girl he sees. And behind the scenes, the organizers, because it's quite a sort of a mystical movie, the organizers say, we mustn't let these two get together, because look what happens when they get together. There's a huge, you see that red dot? If they get together, the whole thing is going to go to pieces because they are so powerful. Keep them apart, keep them apart. That was really an analogy for keeping the powers, the energetic connections between man and woman, the sacred and the mystical, from actually making connections. So really what I'm talking about here is that the connection between man and woman is critical. It is not just critical for husband and wife or any man and woman or just whatever. It is critical for the development and the frequency accretion of the whole universe. It's pivotal. So that's really what we're talking about. When you talk about, so brilliantly about heart warriors, you're talking about men and women because they are both warriors, of course. And the power that exists within their own heart chakra and beyond, of course, is the alignment of the electrical and the magnetic, the alignment of light and sound, the alignment of oscillation and vibration. And when you get that together, this universe operates hugely at a much huger, faster frequency, and you don't get any of the issues and the distortions.
Oh, Dave, you're talking my love language. This is just like my favorite subject in the whole world. So I'm just going to continue on here if we may. Can we talk about the metaphysics of the heart? I said in my introduction, I've waited 99 episodes to have someone on who can talk about the metaphysics of the heart. And I just love all this masculine, feminine stuff. You know, I mean, there is the agenda to break up this divine connection within these energies, within the family, within communities, within you know, the whole spectrum of the universe. It's that powerful. But where would you like to go with this? Can we start with the energetics of the actual heart, seeing, you know, you brought that up with the title Heart Warriors?
Well, I'm not a physiologist, so I don't know too much about the heart. But okay, the heart chakra is the fourth chakra, and it's also the fourth chakra in Earth, which is the Pyramid of Giza, also known as Sol, Stargate 4. And it's very interesting because the fallen angels, okay, yeah, I'm getting into another realm here, but you know, stay with me. The fallen angels who have been behind the organization of geopolitical elites structures on this earth for about, well, particularly 25,000 years. So they've been involved with it. They actually took over the heart chakra of Earth thousands of years ago, so that they would be able to monitor and control the energies that pass through the Giza pyramid. And by the way, the Giza pyramid is not 4,500 years old. It's actually 47,659 years old, just so you know, which means the same as the Sphinx is also around about the same age. But the heart chakra is important, and it's important in the earth, and it's important in the universe, because everything has a heart chakra. Everything has a pineal, everything has a sacral chakra. We have 12 of them in the physical, and they exist at every level, universe and earth, and inside us. So the heart chakra is indeed vital. What we're told is that love comes from here, but actually love is expanded through the whole, everything, every particle. In fact, the heart is often shown, well, how do they do? They do that, don't they? The heart goes like that. But in fact, that's not the heart. The heart doesn't look anything like that if you really look at one. The heart is actually in the sexual area. it's the womb and the fallopian tubes and all that. That is the heart, that we see in the heart shape, because that's what it's really like. So what am I talking about now? Well, now I'm shifting it from the heart area, which is important, as I've just explained. But I'm also now going to talk about sex. Do you mind that, or is this going to be too difficult?
We've everything goes here on this show. You can talk about whatever's relevant. It's all good.
Okay. Well, the thing is that the sexual aspect of all beings, and particularly higher consciousness beings, is absolutely vital. So what we get distortions of the sexual act and the sexual energies here on Earth, and that's deliberate. And that is because it is through the sexual energies that we come to develop love, in joy, in oneness, in God, source. So it's through the sexual energies you come to appreciate love, in joy, in oneness, in God, source. And that is where our real power lies. This sounds perhaps a little unusual, but the fact is that in the Shaddai point, which is in the sexual area for both people, both men and women, there is a small flame, and it is called the orgasm flame. The UR meaning light, and then GASM meaning peace, light, peace. Okay, and the orgasm flame is activated when the whole system is filled with love. And when it's filled with love, it's because you have an alignment with the magnetic, light, sound, electric, oscillation, vibration of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And when they get together, this is why in tantric they talk about the energies coming up the kundalini and expanding into the pineal, and then of course you can ascend. Well, this is all part and parcel of the same thing. So our sexual energies are vital to being able to expand our consciousness up into the pineal and into the further dimensions of who we really are. So this is where, and this is how we actually together as one, masculine and feminine, transcend our physical bodies and become light, sound, oscillation, vibration of frequency of who we truly are, the frequency of our consciousness, because we are not our bodies. We created our bodies out of light, sound, crystalline particles. But here, down here in carbon, we are not our bodies. That's a critical factor. We are much more. And what are we? We're high frequency beings of light and sound in crystal. And how do we get that? We express it through the sexual energies of love, in joy, in oneness, in source. And that comes up the kundalini into the heart chakra and out and up through into who we truly are. And that is essential. So the fallen angels have done an amazingly successful job in preventing us or trying to stop us from experiencing that particular energetic expansion. And that's what the whole thing is all about. The sexual energies through love and joy and oneness in source up through the heart chakra are what create us to be heart warriors. And in heart warriors, we have a heroic pathway. Our heroic pathway is to expand our consciousness in light and sound into the higher realms of who we really are. Because in a sense, in essence, we are God's source.
I just love this conversation so much, David. Let's continue here. So I'm interested in, okay, all this that, you're saying about what I would call divine union, which is, the intimacy and the relationship between two higher consciousness beings that are here to, well, what I would say are having a threesome with God, the masculine, the feminine, and as you said, connect to source. But what would you say, because you were saying how powerful these unions are, what would you say is the function of these unions? You know, like two humans getting together at this level and creating this power. What's the ultimate function of this relationships and power?
Two things I hope I can remember. One is that you need a divine feminine and the light and the sound to make the connection so that you become whole as one. You're quite right about God source, there being the Holy Trinity. You see, the Holy Trinity we were told was God the Father and the Holy Ghost. You know, okay, fine, yeah. It's the fallen angels wrote that, by the way, because their God was known as Jehovah and Yahweh. I won't go into that. That's a long story. But they wrote that because they didn't want us to think that the Holy Trinity was the Divine Father, the Divine Mother, and the 0-point field of universal energy, which is God source. God source is the eternal presence, which is the eternal essence, which is what we have, all right? So we are God source, actually. And we operate the Divine Father, the Divine Mother, and God source. And they work, I could show you in diagrams, I don't have them here, but they work together like this. They breathe in and out, in together as 3, out as 2 plus 1, in together as 3, out as 2 plus 1. And that is how the whole of the cosmos actually works. It breathes in and out, the threesome. Hold on a second. Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh, the Vesica Pisces.
Well, no, the Vesica Pisces would be similar to this one, but the Vesica Pisces is a reversed light polarity creation of the fallen angels, right? This one here is the Trivecca. And the Trivecca is those 3.
Okay.
God, the Father, and the Mother.
Yeah, I can see it better now, yeah.
Okay, so they work together. Now, having said that, what we're now looking at is what's the purpose of mother, father, masculine, feminine? What do they bring to our incarnations here? Well, the Cherokees have a very brilliant old saying, and that is that, and I'm paraphrasing here, I can't remember it exactly, but this is what it says. It says that the man protects the woman and allows her sound to ring throughout the world. And the woman nurtures the man and brings out into his heart his spirituality. Now that's what we're talking about, you see. The North American Indians, they knew that way back in time, that the man protects and allows the woman's sound to ring around the earth. And the woman nurtures, brings in magnetically, nurtures the man and allows his spirit to breathe. And when you get those 2 together, oh my gosh, you have reached the orgasm, if you like, of expression of who we really are.
So beautiful, Dave. Wow. Love it, love it. So what do you see happening? What do you see playing out in the world now? Are these, you know, like, are we beating the system, so to speak? Is the power of these divine unions working? Are we, you know, overcoming the spells and, you know, the demonics that, you know, have been placed on the planet?
Well, it's been a close run thing, in fact. In 2012, we came very close to actually never getting the true sacred sciences back again. So it was very, very close. But in fact, the happy news is that Earth and all the angelic indigos and all those beings who carry and are expanding the necessary frequency are actually moving into that ascended position, the ascension. So basically we're saying that, you know, the fallen angels and their human hybrids, there's a lot of human hybrids out there, some of whom have actually deliberately lost their soul essence. They deliberately eliminated it. So they cannot, quote unquote, win, because their whole life was based on competition and winning, etc. So we are definitely going to be ascending with Earth over the next 900 years, and some will go earlier than others, obviously, because it's a personal choice. So yeah, it's wonderful. So everything is shifted. However, you'll still see a lot of negative energies working on the planet. Now, I'm going to be contentious here, because I think I'll give you an example of the negative energies. Now, this is not to say that what I'm saying is negative. I'm just talking about a negative energy. We hear lots of things about LGBT and homosexuality and things like this. Am I saying that those things are wrong? No, not saying so at all. For example, a couple, two men who love each other, this is entirely their own personal choice. It's their intent. As God source beings, they have the right to do that. And if people start pointing fingers and saying, oh, that's not right, it's not normal, it's not natural, well, let me just tell you, each one of those is running the frequency of the masculine and the feminine. How they express it is entirely up to them. One may have more feminine than the other, who has more masculine, but the electrics and the sound tones and the oscillation and the light and so on, they're just the same. It's masculine, feminine, it's divine father, divine mother. It simply doesn't matter how you arrange this, because we are God source beings. But the agenda for promoting it, etc., was run by the fallens, because they wanted to dismantle and distort everything, all of our energetic sequences and frequency. Because if they could do that, they could take over not just Earth, but the whole of this time matrix, because they would have distorted the energy expression throughout the whole of the cosmea. So everything is working out the way God source chooses now. And remember, we are aspects of God source. And as we increase our frequency, then you will find that with the frequency of the whole Earth will expand, and nothing can stop that. It's one of the reasons, for example, okay, this is contentious as well, but this is one of the reasons why the vaccines were brought out, because there is a direct connection between DNA and frequency expansion. And if you can eliminate or distort some of the strands of DNA, which some of the injections have, not all of them, but some of them have, then you are going to prevent certain ascension characteristics in certain people.
So fascinating. And I was just wondering, this push for this transgender push, is this the demonic's attempt to distort divine union? Like, you know, the what we spoke about, what you spoke about before, the oneness of the masculine and feminine coming into unity with God. Is this like the other end of the spectrum, them trying to, you know, like push the transgender, the masculine, feminine together in distortion?
For sure, yeah, absolutely, because it is the it's the most powerful expression of God's source when it's divinely aligned, which it used to be, you know, millions of years ago, and it's natural. That's the natural alignment, and it's so powerful. It's what creates worlds and universes. That's how the eternal presence, the essence of God, actually creates the whole of the universe. it's through that divine process, and we have that divine process. It's part of our natural birthright, for goodness sake. But if you want to distort a world and take it over, basically, this is a very crude way of saying it, but if you want to distort a whole collection of worlds and take them over and dominate them, the only way you can do it is to eliminate that divine process of loving union in alignment. And if you can do that, then everything that you touch will be yours to control. This is what the devil is alleged to have said to Jesus in the wilderness. Take you up to the high hill and you can have everything here that you want. I can give you everything if you just do this. And what he was really talking about was help me to distort the divine union of all life. That's what the connection between man and woman actually is, or shall I say the masculine feminine, because it doesn't mean man and woman, it's masculine and feminine. And I mean, I have some very feminine traits in me, which have expanded as I've grown older. I've noticed it, I can tell. And some people and ladies that I know have expanded their masculine side, and I've seen that, and that's natural. That's where we're aligning those energies, which are so pivotal and so powerful.
Yeah, Dave, this is so good. So is the ultimate goal within men and women to balance those energies, or is it normal that, you know, like, for example, it's quite normal and healthy and divine for me to have more feminine than masculine, but the masculine is there if I need it, I can call on it, but I'm happy to rest in my feminine? You know, is it like, is the balance to be 50-50, or can we be where is there, you know, a healthy individual place on the masculine feminine spectrum for each of us?
That's a personal choice, isn't it? I mean, as you expand your consciousness, you make personal choices which are more in alignment with your own frequency, your masculine, feminine expression, how you want to express yourself. I know that you have your moments of shall we say masculine energy, and that's normal. I mean, goodness me, you know, we have to have that. And I have my moments of feminine energy. And in the past, I might have thought, you know, I'm an idiot, but no, this is, you know, we got that issue of, you know, man must never cry. You know, I remember when I was a child, you know, man never cries, you know, because a man is a man. You know, but this is total bonkers, actually. So we have, so yes, I have shed tears, of course, for lots of different reasons. And that's my nurturing magnetic aspect coming out, because I feel nurture too. You know, when I was with my little grandson when he was first born, I was as nurturing and as feminine as any other lady. I thought he was wonderful. And of course, he's much older now, and I don't do that now because he's much more masculine and he wouldn't like it. But yeah, we have those aspects to ourselves, and how we express them as we expand our consciousness is how actually we expand the consciousness of the collective too, because it rubs off. You know, our nurturing rubs off, our expansion of going outwards as electrical beings also rubs off. You know, we create, we pull in, we create, we pull in. It's breathing. And that's what works in our cosmea, that all throughout the whole of our universes. Have I answered your question, or have I forgotten something?
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm just happy to go with the flow. So now I'm thinking about love and freedom. Now, I've always seen love as the feminine energy and freedom as the masculine energy, but ultimately they're at the same frequency. So when we come into unity, love is freedom and freedom is love, with the balance of the masculine and feminine. What's your ideas around love and freedom?
Well, there are 12 sacred laws. The Bible tells us that there are only 10, 10 commandments. That's because the fallen who wrote the Bible actually eliminated 2 of them. One of them is unity consciousness, which is the oneness, which is primary, and the other one is free will. So free will comes from freedom, the freedom to do what you choose. Now, of course, in the sacred sciences, the freedom to do whatever you want is aligned only with making sure that your freedoms don't impinge upon other people's freedoms. And that requires expansion of consciousness. It requires masculine and feminine nurture and inner standing. So freedom, yeah. I mean, we are free to be who we wish to be. We are free to act as non-source, and we are free to act as source. And we do both through the course of many lifetimes, you know. And in the process of that, we slowly expand our frequency so that we understand, we understand what exactly we are trying to express ourselves, what our identity truly is, because all of this is to do with identity. Everything we've been talking about is identity. Who are you? Who are you? In the past, I used to think I was my body, but I never went around saying I hand, I elbow. You know, I said my hand and my elbow. So me belonging to me. So who is the me? The me is my identity, and my identity is as God's source. Now, do I slip from being God's source? Well, yeah, sure I do, because I'm still expanding my consciousness. But freedom is critical to this. And you mentioned love and freedom. Okay, love, and joy and oneness is the power. But if you don't have freedom to be able to express what you wish, then that love in joy and oneness is under the constraints of something else, and you cannot express it, you cannot feel it. But once you have, say for example, you're with somebody who you truly love in a physical sense and in an emotional sense and in a mental sense too, and you want to, it feels natural to share the sacred energies of your sexuality together as one. If you don't feel that you have the freedom to do that, if something is impinging on it, oh, I mustn't do that because, or we shouldn't do this because, then you don't have the freedom to express it. So freedom is vital, the freedom to choose what you wish together as one. Oh my goodness, when that happens, it is so powerful. And it can transcend all the energies that you hold and bring them in alignment into one focal point together as one. Now, I'm not going to talk personally here about such things, but in this 3D paradigm, it has been very difficult to produce that. It's been very difficult to emulate that for lots of different reasons. Back in the past, millions of years ago, it was normal. That is how things, relationships developed, and how relationships strengthened and empowered everything around them. And in fact, in a family where the two main people, husband and wife, whatever, when they have that relationship, the whole family is empowered beyond the walls of the house into the local community. It's immensely powerful. And that's another reason why the fallen wanted to distort it all, and why they impose so many restrictions, lacks of freedom into your through the television and Hollywood, etc. They give you a depiction of what they tell you is true love. And of course, it lacks something significant. So freedom is important, yes.
We've spoken quite a lot about men and women coming together in this powerful union. But what about people who aren't in a relationship with, you know, haven't found their divine union counterpart? Does everyone have, you know, someone they're meant to meet, or how does that work?
In the 3D realm here, certainly for the last 25,000 years, it's been very difficult to find your twin flame or your soulmate. It's twin flames, really. And not all twin flames are sexually connected. They can be intellectually connected, emotionally connected, etc. But back in the day, oh goodness, because angelic indigo humans were seeded here 25 million years ago. Yeah, don't listen to what the experts tell you about. We jumped out of trees with a load of chimps. You have to laugh at that one. Anyway, back then, the twin flames were much more powerful and much more regular. They happened more often because the grids of the Earth, the frequency grids of Earth, could handle the power. In the last 25,000 years, there have been very few twin flame couples like that, because when they do get together and they do express themselves in through their sexual energy, their oneness, the energy that is released into the grids of Earth is so powerful that it can actually destabilize the Earth. Okay, you think I'm talking nuts. This is true. I mean, we know now that governments have the power to create earthquakes and manipulate weather and destabilize Earth systems. And that power is nothing compared to the power of the aligned twin flame, divine mother, divine feminine. So for many, many years, it was too dangerous to have twin flames getting together. So they have been kept apart for the best reasons. But now they are all coming back together. Many of them. You're going to find there's more and more of them. Who it's going to be, who can tell? We don't know. But in the next 1,000 years, there's going to be many more of the tantric twins connecting in very, very powerful, beneficial ways for the whole planet. It's going to be awesome.
Well, David, I've got to expand on this topic, if you don't mind, because I always thought that, you know, this topic of twin flames has been around for, you know, the last few years, and I wasn't sure if it was, you know, just some sort of distortion, because a lot of people were using it as a reason to stay in a dysfunctional relationship. So I always thought it was the flame of the inside within the twin flame union, but you're saying it's two physical beings coming together.
Well, it can be etheric beings. Yeah, there's lots of twin flames in higher dimensions, faster frequency dimensions, which we wouldn't be able to see as physical beings. So this exists, and in your avatar self, the 12th dimension, you will have a twin flame. Your twin flame is there with you. So it's just down here things got distorted. And do you need to have a twin flame to be to for example, have sex? No. You can have the sexual release, which is releasing phase locked energies, you know, frustrations, etc. Can be released through the sexual act. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, we've been told that that's wrong. You know, that you don't have to have your twin flame to be able to express and experience the sexual union and the enjoyment that brings. There's a lot that I could talk to you about that, but that would take another program because it's very, very interesting. But no, you don't have to wait, you know, for 15,000 or 290,000 years. I'm waiting for my twin flame. You know, I can't do nothing until I get my twin flame. No. You can express yourself any way you like through your masculinity or your femininity, etc. But if you're looking for the ultimate sexual aligned power of who you truly are, then you're going to be able to align that much more easily with your twin flame as and when you may ever meet them. It's very difficult down here.
Fascinating, fascinating. I better move on from that because, yeah, there is a lot more. Okay, I'll ask one more question about that. So do you have to be aligned, your masculine and feminine, as a twin flame within to meet your twin flame in the physical without? like outside? Is it a reflection of who you are inside that you then get to meet outside?
Yeah, you don't get to meet them until you're ready. And that depends on frequency of consciousness. You can meet a lot of people that you get really attracted to. That's mostly on the physical energetics. There are a lot of people out there that that you can meet that, oh, he's nice or she's nice, whatever, and the same here. But meeting your twin flame is a rare occasion, and you can meet them not for sexuality, but that they give you an emotional alignment and balance. Or you can meet them because they give you an intellectual alignment and balance, etc. There's lots of different types of those. But the full-on one, which involves the sexual energies too, like I say, they're difficult to meet in this 3D world at the moment, although it's getting easier. And that's because your frequencies of consciousness are expanding. And as they expand, what happens is that those two beings gravitate towards each other. It's like the Adjustment Bureau. Matt Damon and his girlfriend were getting closer and closer, and they would be stopped, and they go here, then they get closer and closer. And over a period of years, what happens? They still get together, because that's the power that brings them, the magnetic of the feminine and the electric of the masculine. When they're aligned outside of the union, they pull each other together. And what is the pulling together? The pulling together is frequency of consciousness. If I'm a completely unconscious person and I don't know what on earth I am, and I'm totally focused only on making $300 billion a year, all right, then I am not going to align with my twin flame, even if she's standing right next to me. I'm just not going to get it. So the whole issue impinges upon frequency of consciousness. How are you expanding your consciousness, your light and sound particle base? And when that happens, your twin flame could be on Aldebaran 6, 390 light years away, and you will still meet them, because it's frequency of consciousness that pulls you together.
Fascinating, David. Thank you for that clarification. We've got about half an hour left, and I always like to open up the conversation into to make sure that we, make the most of all your wonderful wisdom and knowledge. What would you like to talk about regarding men or masculinity or anything with consciousness, spirituality? What would you like to talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
Okay, well, you caught me out there. I'm not really quite sure, but you see that picture behind me?
Yeah.
That that is what is known as a code. It's a frequency code. Actually, this is where people just, find it difficult to get their heads around this one. That code is a living being. It just happens to be sitting there on my wall. But it's a Christiac frequency code, and it carries an extremely high frequency because it's carrying the frequency codes of lots and lots of different codes. Okay, what are codes? Codes are living beings of light and sound which project frequency out into the particle base of the universe when they're presented. Now that one is called the Mahadra Adrana, the master key code of the universal Ark of the Covenant. You've heard of the Ark of the Covenant, Harrison Ford was in a film about the Ark of the Covenant. That was awesome. When I saw that in the 80s, I just had to laugh, because that's the fallen angels of Hollywood telling us that they know all about the Ark of the Covenant, because actually they've been chasing to get hold of that Ark of the Covenant for about 840,000 years. No, seriously, that's true. So they made a film about it. But that is the code which helps to activate the universal Ark of the Covenant. It's the key code. So why am I mentioning the Mahadra Adrana with regard to heart warriors and masculine and feminine? Well, because the Mahadra Adrana was turned off 13,400 years ago. In other words, the codes were shut down by the fallen angels, because that code back 13,400 years ago. So we're talking about what, nearly 12,000 BC, 11,500 BC. And that's before the final fall of Atlantis. So Atlantis was still in existence back then. And that code is really to do with the masculine and the feminine. It's also sometimes called the moda adura. In every feminine, there are moda adura crystals, and in every masculine, there are adura moda crystals. In other words, we're composed of both. You see, so you have masculine crystals, and I have feminine crystals. Okay, it doesn't stop me being masculine or you being feminine, but we are part of the same coded particle base. All right, and that moda adura, the mahadra adrana, was the code that outpictured into the universal grids and into us, of course, so that we would be solidly maintained as masculine, physical, divine mother, divine father. All right. And that's what the key code was doing. And then they shut it off 13,400 years ago. So for 13,400 years, that code was not passing frequency into our grids. So guess what? Over a long period of time, we started to forget who we were. We started to think that masculine is only like this and feminine is only like this. And most important of all, the people who were in charge of Earth's geopolitical situation for thousands of years, they didn't want the power of the feminine. They wanted to distort it, to stop it. That's why it wasn't until, 1920 that women in Britain had the vote. Yeah. Women have always been known throughout history as incredibly sacredly powerful, but they wanted to stop that because this is actually a feminine planet. We call Earth her, she. It's a feminine planet. In fact, we exist in our 12 Signet Stargate universe. We exist in the Particum universe, which is feminine. So where's the masculine universe? Well, the masculine universe is somewhere up there to my right. And it's a 12 Stargate universe, which is the parallel universe. It's our parallel universe. And that's Party K universe. And that is masculine. So where did all these fallen beings come from? Because they're very patriarchal, they're very masculine. They came from the parallel universe, the masculine universe. And they came here. And 13,400 years ago, they decided that women were too powerful. We're going to shift this whole universe and Earth from the feminine power into the masculine power. And they did a pretty damn good job of it, actually. All right. So that's the history behind that. So what's the good news then? Well, the good news is in August 2003, that code was turned back on again by the good guys, because there are good guys out there who are working on our behalf. And they turned the Mahadra Adrana back on in 2003. And since 2003, you've had more and more shifts in the sexual energies and the changes. There's been distortions, of course, because the people who run the show have got more and more frantic about making sure that the distortions are maintained. But in fact, what's happening is that women are coming into their power. Look what you're doing here, Gemma. And men are coming into their understanding of what their true power is. Not the power that they were told about, but the power that is truly within them. And it's all coming back around full circle. So that code is actually very, very important. There are lots of codes which are really important. I could show you so many, but they're all coming online and they are immensely powerful. They can't be stopped. So it's all good news.
It is. I love this. And can we expand on what you just spoke about now about men coming into their power? seeing this is a show, for men talking to men and talking about men and masculinity, what is that male power?
The male power is demonstrating your strength, not in force of arms, but in force of inner standing, knowing who you are. When you meet a man who truly knows who he is and what he wants, what he stands for, and is willing to tell you, then you're in the presence of a very powerful man. I've met some of these people. I won't go into their names, and not all of them are encouraging to be around, but there have been 2 or 3 who have been real men, and they know what they stand for. They know what they want, what they seek, what they want to create, and they know how to get it. But the real key factor is what you mentioned about freedom. They understand, they understand that for them to demonstrate their true identity as powerful, strong men, they must include everyone around them to follow them, to be with them, to align with them. Now, it's very difficult for men in the 3D world, the elite world, to do that because they are controlled and governed by other energies. But when you meet a man who actually is like that, who has power, the power of his own personal identity, the true knowing of who he is, that he is God's source, but that he pulls everyone in with him, that he is aligned with everybody else, and they choose him as a means of expanding their own identity. This is really what real powerful men do. They help other people to examine and identify their own identity, who they are. Even if it's just something, I'd quite like to be like him. No, you be like yourself. I'm just showing you the way. Now, when you come across a person like that, I would say that is an example to all of us, including me. I mean, crikey, I've got a long way to go in many, many different things, and I won't tell you about them because they're so personal, but I've got a long way to go to be that strong-minded, aligning individual. But over a period of time, we can get there. So that's what a strong-minded man truly operates. He brings other people with him, with the freedom of their own willingness to know their own identity. That's the key thing. And what about women? Well, women's place here is nurture, to pull in the energies of everything and make sense of everything. It's very difficult for me to explain that, but I suppose really the feminine makes sense of the masculine. The masculine examines and presents identity, and the feminine makes sense of that identity and utilizes it, brings it all in together. It nurtures that and helps it to grow. And when you get the two together, goodness me, you have a very, very powerful force for good.
This is great, Dave. Can you please speak directly to men? I mean, you very humbly said, you were on the journey of, embodying this power yourself. Talk to men. How can they, increase this power within themselves? What do they have to be aware of to be able to embody and, and become this powerful masculine that you just spoke of?
Okay, well, I'll mention something about me. I'm just a typical guy in so many different ways. But for example, I was a tennis player. I wanted to be the greatest tennis player in the world. Now, obviously, I failed at that because you don't know me. I didn't know.
I know you're a tennis player.
But you didn't know any of my results or anything like that. You know what I'm trying to say? I failed at that, but that's not the issue. I tried. I wanted to be the greatest tennis player in the world. Here's something I found out, though. I discovered that for most of the matches I played, I had a lot of ability and talent, etc. I was very, very physical, so it was nothing to do with physical, but I would lose matches. So why? I would lose matches because of fear. So here's a critical word, fear. Now, do we all experience fear? Yeah, sure we do. You know, I know that the ladies experience different types of fears, but men have them too. Men is often to do with identity. You know, oh, I'm not as good as I thought I would be. You know, I don't fit in with the rest of the guys. Or I failed at this. You know, and I'm not very wealthy. And oh crikey, you know, I couldn't succeed in that goal, and etc. So I failed at tennis because when the chips were down, I was afraid. I was afraid that I might make a mistake. I was afraid that I might not present my true abilities. I was afraid that I might be a victim of luck. There was lots of different things. So I'm telling you quite personal things here. I failed at tennis, not because I didn't have the ability, but because I was afraid of my own self. I was afraid of really letting go. All right. I always had to have an excuse in there. Oh, well, I lost because it was slippery. No, I lost because, well, he's got 3 rackets and I've only got 1. I lost because, oh, well, you know, he got a good place in the draw because he knows the referee. So I was full of excuses, and that was fear. But I did have 1 or 2 very astounding results where I beat people that I really shouldn't have even been on the court with. And I remember one. Sorry if this is burdening you here with an irrelevant story, but it's not irrelevant.
Thank you.
I beat somebody who was a ranked player, and he was very, very good, and he was expected to win, and certainly beat me. And I discovered something at the end of that match, which was about 2 hours long, and I beat him. I won. And a load of friends came down and said, oh my God, Dave, how did you do that? I mean, what's going on? You shouldn't have even been on that court with him. And I remember saying to them, as my doubles partner, I said, George, I've no idea how I beat him. I simply have no idea because I was in the zone. In the zone, you don't have fear. In the zone, you're not worried about your own identity. You already know. In the zone, you're not concerned about strategies, tactics, doing this, that, the other thing. All you do is you create, you express who you are. And I learned something there. Don't give in to fear, however difficult it may be. And remember to step outside your own self because you are capable of anything. And when you step outside yourself, guess where you step into? You step into your true identity as God source. And that is being in the zone. And does it matter if you win or lose? Did it matter if I lost that match? No, because I was still in the zone and I played well and I performed as I truly am without fear. And so I learned something there, that was back in the late 70s. And I'm still putting those learnings into action. It takes time, but don't give in to fear. Fear is not who you are. Get yourself into the zone, which is confidence in who you are. And who are you? You're not your body. You're something far more transcendent. You are God's source. Now, I'm sorry, if you find that difficult to believe, that's something you've got to get over because you are God's source. And as God's source, you can get in the zone whenever you want. You can create whatever you want. You can be whoever you wish to be. And that puts you in the zone and it eliminates fear. So that's what I would say I have learned. Eliminate fear, get into the zone, realize exactly who you are. And it doesn't matter what the results are. What matters is how you express your own creative power.
I love it, Dave. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing that personal story. I really appreciate it. So this is a really important place to be, right? The zone. And, you know, you said it's the lack of fear, but what tips have you got for, well, let's say men to get into that zone? I mean, it's one thing to say, let go of fear. But how does one do that practically?
When I was training tennis players, they'd all say the same thing. Oh, Dave, I've got to play this match in an hour. I'm so terrified. You know, so I'd talk to them. But there are some physical things you can do. I used to tell my players, when you succumb to fear, your feet stop moving. You stop moving. It's not necessarily feet, but everything stops moving. You become static. All right. You can see that now if you watch Wimbledon. Somebody's suffering, stopping moving. They're not running for a ball. That's fear. I said, so, okay, move your feet. But there's something more important. Breathe. You see, what happens is that when we are feeling fears, we tend to breathe just at the top of our lungs. We hold it here, and we're breathing like that, but we're not breathing through the whole system. And of course, breath is vital. Breath is where it all comes from. In fact, I mentioned at the very start of this conversation that, the universe exists through breathing. It breathes in and out, in and out, like I showed you. And that's what you need to do. And you can actually concentrate on breathing the two parts together, your left brain and right brain. Okay, because when you're suffering from fears, your left brain, your mental body, is giving you detailed instructions about how your emotional body is feeling. So your emotional body is where the power is. All right. The physical body is not where the power is. The physical body is what actually does what you tell it to do. All right. And if you train well, you can do more. That's all. The mental body gives instructions and gives reasons to do this, that, or the other thing. And and it observes information, data, etc. And the emotional body is where your power is. The emotional body here. So if your emotional body says, "Oh my God, I'm really scared. Oh, I've got to go for this interview. Oh no, I've got to go and see my mother-in-law." Okay, the emotional body will give the instructions to the mental body. Say, I'm feeling a bit tense here. Can you please think of a reason to not do this? So the mental body comes up with a reason. Yeah, you're not feeling great. And passes the message to your body, which says, "Oh, you're not feeling great. What's wrong with me? You've got a knee problem." "Oh yeah, I've got a knee problem." So there you go. So all these injuries that you see, now this is very contentious. People would object to this. But the things that happen to your physical body are almost always to do with the emotional body telling the mental body to figure out a reason. Give me some data whereby I don't have to go through this. All right. So how can we help the emotional body, which is where our power lies here? Now I'm holding you can't see, but I'm holding my tummy. That's where the power is. Okay. Okay, I mentioned about you can move, go for a walk, for goodness sake, right? Breathe into the whole body. Feel it going through your particles. Something else, put your tongue at the top of the roof of your mouth. Okay, what does that do? Connects the left brain and the right brain. Stops your left brain chatter and your mind telling you, you can't do this because the data I've got is bad news, mate. So you put left brain, right brain. So your right brain comes into action, and that's the creative side of you. Okay. Another one is, tap the thymus gland here. This is also known as the azure point. Now, the azure point is your God seed atom. Yeah, that's where the energy comes in. Tell you a funny story. Have you ever seen the film Transformers?
Bits and pieces of it when my boys were young, probably.
Yeah, well,
never sat through the whole lot. No.
Optimus Prime was the good guy Autobot, right? He was the good guy, and he was always talking about something that was inside him. It was a blue light. It was known as the All Spark. How interesting is that? You see, Hollywood knows a lot that they don't tell you about. So the All Spark is here. It's in the azure, which is where the seed atom is. So where your energy comes in and goes out. Okay. So if you are feeling fear, what happens? It shuts down. It goes smaller. In fact, they discovered that in the siege of Stalingrad in 1942, it was so cold that the German soldiers eventually couldn't do anything. Why? Because they were so cold. And when they investigated some of the bodies afterwards, they discovered that the thymus gland had shriveled up to be tiny, absolutely tiny. So when you get very cold or very frightened, the thymus gland shrinks. the Azure reduces in size. So how can you get it to activate? Tap it. Have you ever seen gorillas who are frightened in the jungle? What do? That's they're tapping their thymus gland, or they're bashing their thymus gland. They didn't realize that, but it's an instinct. You can tap the thymus gland, it expands the thymus and the Azure, which emits more energy, and it expands out into your system. So there are ways around that. Those are just physical ways I mentioned, of course. You can also use affirmations. You can also look at codes. Some codes, like that code there, is very powerful. Breathe it in. So you look at it, you breathe it into your pineal. And then you breathe it out into all of the grids of yourself. There's lots of them you can do that with. So has that helped? I didn't realize I was going to be a doctor.
No, this is brilliant, and when we were chatting, in the lead up to this show, you were like, well, I don't know what I can contribute to a show like yours, and it's just been so amazing. You're just full of such wisdom and just unique information, and I'm just so very, very grateful to have you on. And it's been absolutely one of my favorite episodes, because all this stuff I could talk for hours about and listen to you. And I do listen to you on Lazarus Initiative every month. So I know you want to talk about that, let people know where they can find you, where they can hear more of you. I know you've got books out there, you're writing another one. You're also at NewEarth University as well as Lazarus. So please let people know where they can find more of you.
Well, I've got somebody that I haven't contacted just recently who's doing a website for me. But if anybody wants me to write to them, I send people. I've got hundreds and hundreds of articles I've written all about these things. If anyone seriously would like to have some of these articles, there's no problem. I can send them to you if they contact me on this website, on this email address. Can I tell you what it is?
Sure, and I'll drop it below in the link in the description.
Okay.
Sure.
It's Ruche12@hotmail.com. Now I'll spell it REUCHE. Ruche12, REUCHE12, Ruche12@hotmail.com. And I hope I've got that right. Isn't that amazing? My head went into a blank. Well, I think it's REU, but it might be RUE. I can't remember.
Email me and I'll put it in the description.
Okay, right. Now I'll be and I will send whatever they might be interested in. There's loads. I've got hundreds of articles, and I'm happy for anybody to come across them. In fact, I stand on the shoulders of people far cleverer than me and who know more. I mean, I'm just a translator and a passer on of information. That's all, really.
And you're writing a book at the moment too called Beyond Biblical.
Beyond the Biblical, yeah. I completed it and then wasn't happy with it, so I started again because I wanted to improve it. But yeah, Beyond the Biblical, that's a story. It's amazing because most of our history is actually coloured by what's in the Bible, the Quran, Sanskrit texts, etc. But all of those have been distorted in some way by the people who run the show. And so I decided I'd write a book which is beyond the biblical, which takes us back hundreds, millions of years beforehand, so we know who we are and how we got to be here now. And that's what that's all about.
Oh, that's exciting. And what's happening at NewEarth University? What are you doing there?
I talk about what I call real history, what really went down, the things that we've been told about in history. Many of them are true, of course, we've got records of them. But so much that has happened in history is not true, it's been distorted. Some of the stories are the real things that have happened. Oh my goodness! Shall I give you one? Well, there's another biblical one, and that is the Exodus out of Egypt by the Jews. Well, that is a whole new ball game, because that is not what really happened. And the rise of the Roman Empire. No, when you find out what really happened and how that empire was created, you'll think, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And Atlantis and Lemuria, yeah. And don't get me started on chimpanzees jumping out of trees.
We'll leave that for another show. And of course, next weekend we've got Lazarus Initiative coming up. Do you already know? Are you in that one? What are you going to be talking about?
Well, if I can be honest, I'm not really quite sure. I usually just find out a few days before, and then I frantically go through my notes, etc. Oh goodness, can I remember what I'm going to say? So I'm not sure, but it might be about the fallen angels who really started all this, and they're the reason of how we got to be here now. But everybody keeps it quiet. And the thing I'd really like to talk about, if I can, is the human hybrids that they created to run all our geopolitical elites. Most of them are human hybrids, and they're not connected totally with us.
Right. Whatever it is, it's going to be fascinating. So I'll be there. Wow. And I always ask our guests to give a final message to men, Dave, men that are maybe out there struggling. You know, there's a lot of people going through a lot of challenges and shifts at the moment. What have you got to say to those men?
Yeah, I got something to say. There are no accidents. You're not here by accident. You came here deliberately. You came here with a purpose. Don't believe what other people say about, just a happy accident, No. The fact is, you came here on purpose. You chose your parents, you chose your environment, etc. You can shift and change all of the environment, etc. You can change your circumstances, but you came here with a purpose, and it was never an accident. So my advice to everybody is, step into your true power. You are here for a reason, and we need you. We need you to be as you truly are.
That's the best message, Dave. Thank you so much. Honestly, as I said before, I just absolutely love this show, and I love everything that you stand for and speak of. So my deepest gratitude. Thank you so much, Dave.
Thank you for having me, and I hope to see you soon.
You will. Okay. Everyone, please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see. We've got one more episode to go, and I don't have anyone yet, but I want it to be I know everyone's special, but I want it to be someone that epitomizes the whole series, and that is also a well-known name. So I put it out to the universe, and let's see what we can manifest.
Yeah. What about Donald Trump?
Well, I did think of him, but I thought I'd better not make it political. I did. And, I'd be the sort of person that would email him and ask him, because if you don't ask, you don't get, right?
Absolutely.
So if you've got a personal connection, you could put in a good word for me. Even though if he said yes, I would make it say, oh, forget the political stuff and let's have him on. But anyway, we'll see what we can do.
All right. So
thanks, Dave. Lots of love.
Thank you for inviting me.
I need you to stay on just one moment, please. I always ask the guests to choose their own title for the show. So if I could just keep you on for a couple of minutes, please.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Oops, I better not press the end button.